Hello and good evening, one and all, to round 8, the final week of our community, only community racing British oNiD4 series. Radion, No Name, Puon, El Rouge, some of the most famous names of motorsports, and tonight we get to say them as we see our open wheelers race around here for what is going to be a heck of a finale. Now, hopefully, in the Discord we can welcome Scotty. Good evening, can you hear me?
Well. Back
Yes.
here at Spa, not for the first time this week. We were, of course, here for the 100 series on the Mon Ultimate. If you didn't catch that, it was a very interesting strategic race on the Mon Ultimate. But we're here not in sports cars, but in single-seaters. The oNiD4 cars, wonderful little single-seaters. Will be maybe a little bit small for this circuit, certainly compared to the other British circuits we've had, but plenty of slipstreaming opportunity, plenty of high-speed corners for our drivers to enjoy throughout the middle sector. Qualifying already underway, so you can see drivers starting their flying laps. We're following Dan Tomlinson as they come into the middle sector through the Lecom chicane, starting to come down the hill towards this awkward long right-hander. The car just wants to understeer out, maybe a little bit of rear sliding we've seen throughout the season. These oNiD4 cars, the rear end very easily unsettled, will very easily spin round on you if you're not careful with them.
Yep, absolutely.
Down towards now Puon, one of the most infamous corners in motor racing, and not just on the Spa circuit, through the fast double left-hander. Now towards this little piff-paff chicane. Quite a few long corners, need a good change of direction in the middle of these. But yeah, fantastic lap round Spa. And one of the things I love about Spa, it's not just a great circuit to drive, but it makes for some great racing.
Absolutely. And as we go down through onto the back straights, it'll then be the fast left-hander that's coming up of... Oh goodness, what's the name of it? I've forgotten the name of it. I'm ever so sorry, folks. Blanchimont, there we go. I wanted to say something else other than that, but it's Blanchimont to go through. It's almost, well, it's flat through in these cars. You've got to be gentle with steering, be quite gradual so the rear end doesn't spin round on you. But enough wing on that rear wing of the oNiD4 car, pushing the rear of it into the ground and able to go reasonably flat as Dan Tomlinson comes to the line. That'll be the first qualifying lap that we have on the timing board. It's a 2:24. That's the benchmark on the very early parts of the session. I would imagine people behind them, people behind Dan would have potentially gone a bit faster. Indeed, they have, and it is a 2:24.3 that currently is the benchmark after Dan Tomlinson's lap. People in the background, especially Aidan Carter, benefiting from a bit of a tow. There's a couple of groups of cars that are coming to the line that are pretty much slipstreaming each other and trying to get a better time over the others. Luca Monroe, one of those drivers, following, I believe, that was car number 7 of Richard Ashford, who's actually just starting a lap. However, Alexander Otterwin now goes to pole. 2:23.7, a significant improvement over Luca Monroe, but I don't think he had a car ahead of him, so that might have been just raw pace instead of a slipstream. That's a good lap from Otterwin there.
Interesting, because we've seen the slipstream be very powerful in these cars, and with the long straights, the Camel Straight that Ortegren is coming on to now, and the run up towards bus stop chicane in the final sector, would really benefit. But maybe just sort of a bit of dirty air in the middle sector is having a bit of a bigger effect, or maybe Ortegren has just hit the ground running. Of course, these are opening flying laps. Tires not yet up to temperature, so maybe the drivers will find a little bit more confidence as they continue to lap around.
Yep, absolutely. So there's more time to be found, I am sure, as they all continue to get going. We're just looking at my timing. I'm seeing if it's someone towards the end of their lap, one of them being actually Ronald Bottleson, who is on a lap currently, but is a little bit way off as it stands. Following him through now going to the final part of the circuit, completely flat. He's got a car ahead of him though. and we'll be getting a nice nifty little toe as they go through the launch road. That would be too close, as you see Matt High popping up into second there, 224 dead. And as you said, that would be too close to unsettle the car through the fast left-handed launchment. There's enough downforce to keep that car planted for now. Goes down to the final chicane. On the brakes, that is car number 30, I do believe, ahead of him. That is Nigel Stock, who Bottleson is following. No, so it's just a couple of places down so far, but we'll see if Bottleson can improve, especially with a car ahead of him. Maybe had a bit of a slipstream. Comes to the line and is not a valid lap. Stays put as Nigel Stock, as we say about him crossing the line. It wasn't actually car 30, it was another car that was following, but Nigel Stock does come to the line, car 30, and goes up to 4th position, half a second off Autogren's best lap time. Is actually about to come to the line once more.
Silverstone has beat themselves into P2 at the moment, but can Ortogren improve on their second lap here? Cross line, we wait for timing to update, and with no time coming through, looks to be an invalid lap. Easily done round Spa. Wouldn't expect the drivers to be having to cut Radion at the top of the hill that Ortogren is coming up to. They should have more than enough grip for the power that they have to make the apex while being flat out up the hill. But some of the other corners in the middle sector, Puan, I imagine especially, would be the most difficult one and most likely corner that these drivers will run a little bit wide and end up invalidating their lap. We can see very close field down the order. Can see Aiden Carter fighting for the Pro Championship. I say fighting is a little bit off, is looking unlikely, let's say, but I haven't done the maths. Let me just try and have a quick look. But they are currently sitting second in the standings, and they would like a good result here to ensure they stay in second place. But currently down in P7, not a great qualifying session for them so far. Still a few laps they can have to try and better their position.
Speaking of laps, there's 15 cars that have currently set a lap, but there's actually 20 drivers on the race session. So 20 drivers here. Another 3 of those drivers are still in the pits, but 2 of them yet to set a lap time are on laps. Ashford being one of them, car number 7, running through the final part of the circuit, and just up ahead of him is Berton Fateri, looking to try and get up into, well, at least set a lap time on the board for Sim Hound Academy team here on iRacing. Good to see the academy is being repped with their drivers, as Fateri looks to have actually kept it valid. He's going to go to the line, just about keeps on the curve. Aiden Carter improves to 3rd. It's a good, better lap time from him, more that we expect from him. But Fateri comes to the line. It is a time, 225.7, gets on the timing board, slots into 14th. Ashford not too far behind in that amazingly British livery, comes to the line. See if he can set a time, and it's going to be 15th, 226.1. 3 drivers still in the pits, yet to set a lap time.
Yeah, it is a long lap, so if they do want to get a lap, they will need to get out very sharpish. But Oregon returning to the pits, as they might be wanting to get a new set of tyres. Say a couple of drivers in Carter and Batolfson invalidating laps, and Batolfson returns to the pits. But you can see Ashford coming up the hill. Trying to see if I can see their first sector. It's half a tenth off their personal best through the first sector as they come, but first sector is relatively short for Spa around here. You only really have the source, then it's just the flat out run up to the sector line as you go through Rouge and Radion. It's this middle sector that you're going to make up or lose the time as you head through into the left-hander of No Name. Well, it does have a name these days, though I don't quite remember it off the top of my head. Now making their way towards Puan. As mentioned, if they're going to run wide and invalidate their lap, this would be the corner. They keep their inside wheels within the white line, so the lap will remain valid, using all of the curb on the exit too, and using all the curb on the entry to the Piff Paff chicane. So Ashford seeming confident isn't worried that the car's going to step out on them using that curb. It's just trying to use any little millimeter, but the rear end slides round as they turn into the first part of Stavlo, and that will run their lap. They'll return to pit lane, as I imagine the tires will not quite be happy with that. They'll have time to get out and do one more flying lap, but they need to get a move on for that out lap. Terry Williams coming towards Stavlo is on a personal best first sector. Let's see what the time is in the second sector. Trying to see here, it looks to be a few tenths off. So as they come up towards the line, we'll have to see. I can see we've got multiple splits. But we'll have to see if Terry can improve. Does run a bit wider through Blanchemont, and that might have invalidated their lap.
Quite possibly. It's trying to get the right data on screens for you guys, but it's, I think, Scotty, you've got the live timing in the background, so we'll rely on you for that as we see lap times coming through on the field. When it does come to the line, it's an improvement, but only in time, not in position. 227.169 sees him 17th. Pfeiffer's, Mason and Rich, I do believe actually, potentially have qualifying bans for this race.
Yeah, they don't seem to be setting times. But you can see Oliver Stone has now got themselves top of the board with their last lap. 2:23.4, just over 2 tenths clear of Ortegren, who themselves is by quarter of a second clear of Aiden Carter, who's got themselves up to P3 by 1,000th in front of Matt High. Very close in midfield. Overstone coming up on a bit of traffic, which might scumper their final lap here, which is not going to be ideal. But we go on board with our current championship leader, and most probably with a 82-point lead coming into this round. Who's probable champion isn't quite confirmed, but we do have, and we also have dropped rounds to play into it, so we can't confirm them as champion yet, but it is looking good for them. Maybe picking up a bit of slipstream from the oNiD Racing car in front. Coming towards the chicane, is hopefully far enough back to not be getting disturbed. And remember, actually, when time runs out, the session immediately ends as Ian Carter gets a final lap in, pops themselves up to the front row. I can see the cars in the background for Toy improved their lap time, but enough for a position. Luca Monroe gets P4, and that is the session done. No more laps to be posted. This is the grid we will have for our first 35-minute race of the evening.
Indeed it is, and it is going to be... Let's not do that. Let's go to grid. That's more like it. There we go. Oliver Stone on pole with Delta Sport, Aidan Carter in second. Only 1/10 separate them. Ortegren third. Monroe fourth. I fifth. Nigel Stock in sixth. McArdle seventh. Scorer eighth. Staples ninth. Ben Holmes in 10th. Tomlinson in 11th. Bottleson in 12th. Ashhill 13th. Baton for Terry 14th. Ashford 15th. Page 16th. Williams 17th. And 3 cars at the back of the grid. Pfeiffer's, Mason and Rich, who I believe have qualifying penalties, have not set a lap time and will start from the back of the grid.
So a few cars with pit laces to make up in our 20-car field should make this quite an interesting final round. Overtaking shouldn't be too difficult with good slipstreaming opportunities around the lap. But will they be able to get themselves towards the front of the field? We've seen Lewis Mason, Mike Pfeiffer's have both been fairly quick. They're potential top 5 drivers. Can they get themselves into the top 5? It'll be interesting to see. But not long now until we get going for the first race here. It seems like all of our cars are readied up. So we're just waiting on the lights.
Engine revs rise, all lights are on, they go out for the race start for the penultimate time this season for iRacing. Oliver Stone gets away well, Carter steps in behind. In the background, Otterman and Monroe going to fight, and Monroe goes to the outside. It looks like Monroe's going to have to yield for fourth. In the background, Ben Holmes dropping down the order like an anvil in the ocean. However, he's keeping the power points in the right direction. It's not because of the spin. I think he's just been a little bit mugged as the leaders now go up through Eau Rouge. Quick left, right and left. Tyres will still be cold. I need to be careful going up here. They take enough curb on the inside there not to gain a disqualification or instant point or an off-track warning. They do get away with it by the looks of it up in the lead. Aidan Carter now challenging Oliver Stone. Slipstream down the first straight, and Aidan cuts the nose off of Ollie. Gets the move done even before the braking zone, and that's a change of lead very early on in this first lap.
I think I've seen cars thinking about 3 wide into Rouge and Roddy, and that is incredibly brave, but they fan out towards the downhill hairpin. Ortegren defending from Monroe is trying to find a way past, but not quite able to at this early stage. As cars, we've got a few cars already into the pits. Adrian Rich doesn't seem to have got very far. Terry Williams and Ash Hill into the pits. Stan Tomlinson meanwhile has made up by a couple of places, so is Fortoy, and Lewis Mason up 5 places from the back of the grid, being a good start for them.
Let's see what happened to Terry Williams. So it's crashed immediately at the start basically. You'll see what's happened here as revs are rising and get away as so reasonably well as he involved in an instant at the start. Gets to the racing line nicely, and I think that's okay. He has returned to the pits. Something has happened to him as we go into this race. We'll just keep an eye on that. Actually, we'll see what's happened to Ash Hill. He's returned to the pits. Going down into the turn we go. It is on the inside, and that's contact. Oh, that looked like netcode.
I think the front wheel just clipped the rear wheel and then collected by the 2 cars. That took the front right wheel off. Terry Williams found the wall, and the damage was too much for Adrian Rich, that they decided that they needed to tow back to the pits. So very unfortunate for them, as it just shows small contact wheel to wheel. When you don't have any bodywork protecting the wheels, it can be very significant. Looks like it was Staples. That was the car that Ash Hill collided with, and they are carrying on, and they're where they qualified, so they seem to be all right, but they could have a little bit of suspension damage. Move for the lead. Oliver Stone with the slipstream will pretty much do the reverse of what Aiden did on the opening lap. It takes lead, but Ortegren is going to try and follow through here. He's looking to the outside. In-car holds the inside, but is not be able to go for a move. Mahai, though, is looking for a move on Monroe into Lycombe chicane. It doesn't seem to have worked out. Fighting down the pack, 3 wide into they come. I believe that's Mike Pfeiffer's in the middle, up in front of Ashford now, but behind this Mason as for twin Staples have been fighting. It looks like Fortoy has got that move done for P11 now. See if they can catch up and pass Sean McGardle, who has a bit of a difficult start, down 3 places from where they qualified. Could find themselves outside of the top 10 soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're getting away well, and they'll put the iRacing car on there so you know who's who. As Pfeiffer's gets up the inside of Lewis Mason.
Side by side as they come into the Piff Paff chicane. Mason on the inside, Pfeiffer's with the outside, trying to take the better line into the chicane. Allows them close up a little wide for Mason. Trails the gravel on the exit again. Has to take the tighter line into the first par Stavlo. That could give Pfeiffer's the run, and sort of does, but right in the middle of the second par Stavlo. Pfeiffer's would have had to have backed out the throttle for a moment, but get back in it, use the slipstream, and has the run. We'll have the inside when they get to Blanchemont. It might be moved done by then. Mason not fighting it too hard, as Oliver Stone said in Discord earlier on this week, said that you don't want to fight too much in the middle sector. You're just going to slow each other down when you could be sort of working together, catching cars further in front, and yeah, could be sort of
Ooh.
holding yourself to their position, but an issue there for Mason coming out of the chicane.
Looked like slam on the brakes right at the last minute on the exit. I'm not sure if that was maybe some netcode issue where he thought the car was closer than it was, but it looked like a bit of like an emergency stop as he's trying to avoid a collision. He does avoid it unnecessarily because it did look like there's at least a car length between him and who he was fighting of. That was Mike Pfeiffer's, but it is unless. But we will go up to the lead battle because side by side is Ollie Stone, Aidan Carter. Aidan Carter regaining the lead again. On the background, Autogren, third position, and Monroe and High got to start fighting as well.
Yeah, I don't think Oliver Stone's going to fight this too hard. They slip back into that line, but Matt High still trying to get themselves past Monroe. They don't want to be at the back of the train because that's where it's most difficult to make your way forward, is when all the cars in front of you have slipstream. But issue for Sean McArdle sideways across the track. Staples has collected them, and Fortoy also in strife.
Absolutely, it's never nice to see.
We seen there is Fortoy just before he returned to pit lane. A lot of front left damage. It was about 20 degrees pointing inwards on the car. So has to return to the pits, as says. Just unfortunately collected Sean as he spun, lost the rear end. As we see, you can see Fortoy, it was the car in front of these two. I think that might have been Dan Tomlinson was making a move, and then just off the racing line, taking an awkward different line compared to what they're used to. Sean McArdle lost the rear end, as we've seen countless times throughout the season, and yeah, unfortunately for Toy, nowhere to go, collected them, but fight for the lead. Oliver Stone is trying to get past Aidan Carter, and look at this train. They're all bunching up with the slipstream, nearly 3 wide. Monroe has got past Ortegren, who's going to drop to the back of this train. Oliver Stone looking to the outside of Aidan Carter, less to fight for the lead, but more trying to hold on to second place. Stone, well, they don't mind. They know that they won't be able to break away with the strength of the slipstream. They don't want to fall any further back than second place. We go on board with Ortegren as again Matt High looking to the inside of Monroe, but it's not close enough. You can see Ian Carr pulling to the inside, trying to break the slipstream, but everyone follows. The slipstream is absolutely vital now as we have more cars heading into pit lane to repair some damage. Remember, they do have a fast repair, so they hopefully won't be in the pits too long, not unless they've had to tow there and have to win the tow time. You can see the run Oliver Stone has with the slipstream already pulling into lead, and Monroe is making it 3 wide. Has he got the best slipstream of all towards Slaycombe? Aidan has fallen to third, or can he fight back on the outside of Stone over the curb before Monroe? And things get very tight. I think there was contact there. 3 wide into the right-hander. Mahai gets shoved out on the outside. Monroe takes the lead. Oliver Stone trying to hold on to second for Mahai down the inside into the right-hander. I think they'll get this move done. They do indeed. And Aidan Carter now trying to get themselves into third, but won't be able to. We'll have to settle for fourth as our drivers make their way through the middle sector for the 4th time.
Quick replay. Sean McArdle involved in another incident. He has returned to the pits. I think he's used his quick repair. It goes on to the inside. Oh, it's already a car there. And there's another contact. No, he just dives to the pits. It was Sean. Okay, so this is now Sean McArdle. Apparently I'm trying to figure out what's happened here. It's another couple of cars.
Ashford and
Mason.
Yes, as they come up, so 3-way battle here coming up towards the bus stop. Look to the inside for Mason. Is fairly cautious on the brakes, but I think he lets off the brakes. I think he realizes he's braked too early, sort of releases to try and carry a bit more speed into the corner, but ends up getting into the side and spinning. Ashford originally went on for another lap. I think they returned to pit lane in the end, unless they've done a whole lap without their front wing. But back to the front, Oliver Stone going for the lead, trying to retake it from Monroe round the outside of Blanchemont, and Matt High trying to go for the lead on the outside of it. 3 wide, side by side through chicane. More contact between Matt High and Monroe through chicane. and Aiden Carter is going to try and get themselves back up to second place while not getting involved in the contact again. 3 wide into turn 1, and this could be Oliver Stone's opportunity to break away from this pack, break the tow, but he needs to do it now while they're fighting out of the source. Monroe holds second, Matt High third. Aiden Carter has to slot back into fourth place. But you gotta imagine there's maybe a bit of damage for Monroe and Matt High with how they clashed wheel to wheel, side by side contact. And Matt High again going to will be the outside when they get to they come chicane. But giving off slipstream. Aiden Carter is going to try and find a way through for second place. It's going to make it 3 wide. It's going to go to the inside, but they back out of the move sensibly as Matt High and Monroe still side by side. Matt High wiggle over the curb, and Carter has to fall back behind Ortegrin as they get caught right behind Matt High having their own moment. Look at that, Monroe is breaking away, and it's dropped this pack of 3 cars right off the leading pair. Matt High down the inside, Ortegrin holding it round the outside. That becomes the inside for the left-hander here, and Aiden Carter swoops through as well. Matt High down to 5th place, maybe struggling with a bit of damage. Now you can see Dan Tomlinson has closed up an awful lot at the start of this sector.
Ollie Stone, Luca Monroe absolutely loving this. There's a couple of cars going wide. That was Aiden Carter going extremely wide through Pua and Monroe. As they said, Monroe and Stone are breaking away. Gap is now 3 seconds between second and third. Both of these drivers are going to be absolutely loving this. A bit of peace and quiet for a little while. This 5-way battle has broken essentially into a pack of 2 and 3 cars. And we'll see what happens with that as we go through the race. But Luke looking to stay close to Ollie Stone here and try and fight for the lead. In the meantime, I've had a couple of other instances. Jarrett Page sadly having a bit of a moment. I think himself and Nem getting involved. Instant all by themselves goes through there. Oh yeah, that's a wiggle, and the car elected to want to go build some sandcastles, but then realised it didn't have its bucket and spade. Rejoins safely and does continue. However, Matt High is spun.
This on the exit of Blanchemont towards final chicane. Aiden Carter into the pits.
He's crashed. Aiden's car's had contact.
You can see that right rear tyre looks completely out of alignment. The car crabbing, can see the damage on Incar's front left. So those two have had it coming together through Blanchemont, and Aiden Carter immediately into the pit lane to use that faster power. Matt High is in the pits as well.
Ooh.
I just lost it on the curb by their own.
What happened to Aiden then?
Contact between those two. I wonder, was there contact that Aiden had with Matt High in the opening sector, sort of around the Lake Com chicane when they were fighting? Because I was looking at sector times, those Matt High and Aiden Carter lost 3 seconds in the second sector alone from that fighting. You know, this goes back to the point I made that Oliver Stone brought up in Discord. You know, you can lose a lot of time fighting side by side. And 3 seconds, look at Ortegrin, 3 seconds back. They have no one to slipstream off. They might not ever catch this leading duo unless they fight each other and slow each other down. But Oliver Stone, I mean, he's the one that said this. He'll be aware of that. You'd have to think he's going to be clever enough to not fall into that trap. Replay here of Aiden Carter on the outside of this 3 wide moment. Matt High just sort of squeezes Aiden Carter onto the curb, but that's not where they got the front wing damage. And looks like Aiden Carter backed out there. He knew he needed the slipstream, so he backed out there to get into it. And yeah, then we seen what the fighting that went on through the Lake Com chicane. So Oliver Stone hasn't managed to break away from everyone, but has whittled the train down that they were in from 5 cars to only 2. But speaking of trains, there's a little bit of a train here, sort of around P5 to P8. We have Nigel Stock and Yuri Shore fighting over P5, Mike Pfeiffer's and Ben Holmes fighting over P7.
Yep, absolutely. Nice little midfield battle here. We said you don't want to go fighting through the middle and final sector, but these guys don't care. They want the positions. It's all about the midfield fight. and they are giving it their all as if they're fighting for the lead side by side through the final chicane. Somehow they managed to get through as we go to the line. Upper cars up ahead of them. Luca Monroe actually setting new fastest lap 2:23.2 as the new fastest lap, and is going to try and catch the leader. As up the inside is that Mike Pfeiffer's making a move on 2 cars up into the first turn.
Yeah, and Monroe saying that fastest lap, they were half a second quicker than Oliver Stone in the first sector alone, and you can see the effect of that slipstream now as he uses it to take the lead of the race. Oliver Stone slotting into line and will probably end up following through most of the middle part of the lap until they get towards the end. The run towards Blanchemont and the chicane is probably where Oliver Stone will try and retake the lead, if not in the exact same spot. Next lap, Ortgren kicking up a bit of gravel in the background and will pick up an off track for doing so. We cut back to this battle now. Nigel Stock looking to the inside of Ben Holmes, not quite able to get their nose there as Mike Pfeiffer's runs a little bit wide. Uri Shore starting to break away, run away in 5th place as Ben Holmes tries to fend off Nigel Stock and Mike Pfeiffer's. Remember, Pfeiffer's started from the back of the grid, so is making places up. Nigel Stock fighting for the AM Championship win. They come in 3 points behind Ash Hill, and with Ash Hill having had a torrid time and taken a trip through pit lane for repairs, it's looking quite good for Nigel Stock, but they're still round the outside of the chicane. That becomes the inside in contact, wheel to wheel, rear right in to the front left of Ben Holmes. It's difficult to see from that angle if Nigel sort of ran wide into Ben Holmes, or if Ben Holmes went too tight of a line and sort of turned themselves into the rear tire of Nigel Stock. But Pfeiffer's is now going to try and take advantage with the slipstream. Stavlo will pull themselves alongside, and if they can get the move done, will be into P6. But Stock with the inside is going to hold on for now. We'll swap back to the outside towards the bus stop. It looks like Nigel Stock has this covered for now.
Does indeed, and indeed keeps the position ahead of Mike, but Mike's not having it. Sorry, I'm trying to get my words out. Mike's not going to let Nigel have his own way here. Sticks back into the slipstream, down to turn 1. I think he's going to stay put and try and make a move up into the straight after El Rouge.
Camel Straight is a long straight uphill, easy opportunity that Oliver Stone will be trying to use to take the lead. Pfeiffer's will be using to try and take P6. Oliver Stone is pulling alongside Monroe, and so does Mike Pfeiffer's. So it looks like Stone hasn't got the move done. Monroe is going to fight it back and is going to hold on to the lead for a second lap here as they come into the middle sector. Monroe, they want to win this race. They are not going to make it easy for our championship leader, Stone. They're going to try and hold on. Pfeiffer's has got that move done for P6. I'll be hoping that they can pull away through the technical part of the lap. But Oliver Stone not having things going their way, at least for this lap.
No, not at all. Right. Still in the slipstream, no, but Luca Monroe isn't really putting away either. Looks like Oliver Stone's got on Luca Monroe all reads him like an open book, essentially. Managing to stay in the slipstream and keep up for position. And fair play on Luca, he's making that car as wide as a bus, but I have a feeling the lead may be changing hands again once more.
The slipstream is worth half a second from the source to they come alone. When you add in this straight as well, it's probably worth a second round the entire lap, but it's not worth anything if you're only alongside your competitor, Oliver Stone, hanging around the outside of Blanchemont, which will give them the inside when they come to the bus stop. Monroe are there on the brakes, will slot into line this time, knowing that that opportunity up through a Rouge Radian and up the Kemmel Straight is very short in front of them. Ortgren, though, in the background, a little bit closer. You can see 2:23 lap time for them, 24, even a 25 for Monroe that lap. So that shows you Order Grid is slowly dragging themselves into this fight, even though they don't have any slipstream just yet. They're looking to change that. Monroe in the slipstream is closing, the momentum gaining for them as they climb up the steep hill of Rouge and Radion. Oliver Stone just slightly tighter down. They're just trying to break the slipstream a little bit, but they know it's not much. Holds the inside line as Monroe is coming. They have the momentum and they've opted not to pick up any more slipstream, which might mean they don't get in front. In fact, Oliver Stone pulls across the nose and will hold on to the lead this time through, much like Monroe, but a little bit simpler than what Monroe had to do last lap as they fought through the comp.
Yep, absolutely. Mike Pfeiffer's as well, catching Yuri Screwer here for position 5th and 6th, also coming into quite close proximity with one another, and I'm sure they'll start fighting for position in a few moments' time. I trust Mike will probably have a slipstream going down into through No-No and then down into this fast left-hander coming up. I definitely forgot the corner name of. Sticks right behind the car of Jory, but will potentially stay there for a little longer, and the next opportunity I believe will be the back straight.
Will be the back straight again, unless they have a good run and they can try something really brave and ambitious here. But with the pace that Pfeiffer's has, you know, they really closed up on Troy last lap. They were 0.8 of a second quicker last time round. So they certainly are quicker, and look through the sectors. They were, again, half a second quicker in the first sector, showing the effect of that slipstream. And they'll have that slipstream now as they come up towards the bus stop. They won't get this move done soon-ish, though. As you can see, Nigel Stock closing in as well. We'll be looking to make this a three-way fight. Mike Pfeiffers will want to get the move done and keep themselves clear of Stock, not allow Stock to get the slipstream off them and fight them over P5, but defending the inside is Shori, but Pfeiffer's is going to go round the outside, claim the apex at the second part, but round the outside, the second part, Shori is going to carry the momentum and have the better exit onto the start-finish straight towards the source. Now you can see Stock, the personal best lap as they close in on this battle. Pfeiffer's around the outside of the source. That's a difficult move to make, but they have done so. Well, they've done it to remain side by side. Up at front, Monroe with the slipstream is going to take the lead this time up the Kemmel Straight, but side by side into Rouge through Radion. Cut of the apex for Pfeiffer's, making sure that they don't come together on that apex and have a massive crash with the speeds you carry up over the crest. Still side by side, it's dead even as they head towards Lycoming. Look at that, Nigel Stock is going to enter the battle. He thinks about making it 3 wide in the braking zone, but decides over. But look at the confidence. Pfeiffer's on the brakes, swoops in front for the apex, and will take P5 from Shore, who's now putting their full attention onto Nigel Stock as they had a bit of a slide over the curb at Lycoming. Let's see inside for Stock, but a very short braking zone into this right-hand hairpin means a move not possible there, but it's only a matter of time as Pfeiffer starts to pull away, starts to break the slipstream, and when Shore loses the slipstream, they're going to be defenseless against Stock. Into Pon here, a little bit wide for Shore, but might not be enough to give an early opportunity to Stock.
Just want to say, that battle between Pfeiffer's and Jory there was literally 3/4 of a lap. They were side by side. That was incredible to see. Both drivers giving each other space at the most crucial points of the circuit, where you don't really think about going side by side, let alone trying to fight for position at the same time. It's a fantastic drive from both. Unfortunately, with all that hard fighting Jory's done, it doesn't look like he's going to relish in the rewards. It's now Nigel Stock up the inside. And he goes through the left-hander. Oh, that's a little nudge through Bongemont. Indeed, it was. Oh, it looked like a nudge, or maybe just a little bit of unstableness from Rajuri, he's going to
He's
be
going
on
to
the
try and come
inside.
back here. He's sure he doesn't want to give up. I think
No.
Nigel Stock is sort of begging him, just please let me go. Let me chase down Pfeiffer's. But Shorey has fought back and is going to hold on to P6 as they cross the line towards the source. This is so painful for Nigel Stock. They could be fighting Pfeiffer's for P5.
Yeah,
Instead, they're being held back here by Shorey.
It's insane. Juri, he has every right to defend a position. It is 6th position after all, and he is fighting for it. And one of them is right to stop doing that. However, at the moment, we're just going to quickly touch base with the lead battle. We've had some fantastic midfield battles, but lead battle is changing hands once more. Ollie Stone back past Nico Monroe. I have a feeling the lead fight is going to be who's the last person to make the move on the last lap and stay ahead. They've been trading positions constantly, playing musical chairs at that 1st and 2nd position.
10 minutes till we get to that end point of the race as Nigel Stock has finally got the move done. Looks like it was round the outside into the first part of the column that became the inside, and Dryshore will have to give that one up, not unless they can stay close enough and fight back later on in the lap. But look in the background, there is Ben Holmes, who's closed up. The fighting between these two might end up cause Shorey to lose out on P7 and fall to P8. But also, as we were looking at the battle, you could see Ortegren has closed up, is now only 1.5 seconds off the battle for the lead, claimed another 7/10 last lap on the leading pair. Just to show you, how much that sort of fighting, that swapping of positions is costing them. I imagine we will get a 3-way fight for the lead, which will make things very interesting when we get to the final lap.
It will do indeed. I am just going to replay that overtaking move by Nigel Stock around the outside. And that was move done.
With the racing line going into the had the confidence, and that became the inside, which let them get the move done. And now Shorey is trying to hold on to the slipstream, but it's just falling over as Ben Holmes closes up, and will be getting every kilometre per hour that the slipstream has to give them. As Mike Pfeiffer's is already cut up and it has passed Dan Tomlinson into the bus stop. So a place lost for an oNiD car in this lap, but can Ben Holmes gain one back as they cross the line with the slipstream? Shorey has closed back up to Nigel Stock and will get the slipstream all the way up to the Has Stock not built enough of a gap? Are they going to come back under pressure? As we see Pfeiffer's very confident on the brake on the racing line, round the outside, takes the inside, and that is move done. Very good move, it must be said. But Dan Tomlinson might try and fight back up the Camel Straight. Monroe will take the lead, or will they? Oliver Stone fights it back on the inside of the braking zone and will hold on to the lead for now. Further back, Dan Tomlinson trying to get past Pfeiffer's on the outside. They'll be side by side in the braking zone. We've seen how confident Pfeiffer's was into the bus stop. They are just as confident into the chicane, and Yuri Shore has got back past Nigel Stock. That is a big blow to Stock, as it means that they can't get on to chasing. Not really Mike Pfeiffer's are worried about chasing anymore, but Dan Tomlinson. I know Dan has just fallen to 5th place. He might be a little bit disappointed with that, but it doesn't seem like he's even the 5th quickest driver here. A top 5 result would be pretty good, and he'll be looking in his rearview mirror, seeing the battle behind him, and hoping that they continue to fight, continue to slow themselves down, so he can take an easy P5. Careful not to run out too wide there. That looked a little over the white line for Tomlinson. Don't want to pick up too many off tracks, but it was valid. No off tracks so far for Dan Tomlinson as he follows Pfeiffer's through this middle sector. Will try and use the slipstream to sort of like tow himself along with Pfeiffer's to and pull himself away from the battle behind. Nigel Stock could barely be any closer to the rear wing of Yuri Shore, and will try and make a move to the left-hand side. Goes Stock to make it side by side as they come up to Blanchemont. It'll be the inside for the quick left-hander, but you can guarantee that Yuri is going to hold it round the outside, keeps the nose in, and Stock leaves him the room. This has given Ben Holmes a run. Where does Ben Holmes go in all of this? Cars trying to pick a side as they get to the braking zone of the bus stop. None of them making overlap, as we see some personal best times at the front of the field. But with the slipstream towards the source now, closing in, does Ure go for a dive? Is he confident enough on the brakes? No, but surely it's close enough to get a good slipstream run up or Rouge up Radion and to make a pass down the Camel Streak. But someone isn't going to wait that long. Dan Tomlinson is trying to pass Pfeiffer's before they get to Rouge and Radion. In fact, they're going to go side by side through here. It's not the first time Pfeiffer's has done this. Again, he cuts the apex of Radion to make sure he can leave space for Dan Tomlinson to make sure there isn't a crash. And a little bit of a slide as he tried to leave room, compromising his momentum. Pfeiffer's is going to fall to P5 now, unless he can have another mega braking zone, as we see in the background. You're sure retaking P6 from Nigel Stock and unable to get the move done under brakes. Pfeiffer's will have to sell for P5 now, as Dan Tomlinson will lead the power through the middle sector. Oliver Stone has lost out on the lead as well once more, but Orgren has fallen back. The gap now over 2 seconds. Once again, lost half a second last lap, did Ortegren, and might not be able to catch up for the lead as we're within the final 5 minutes of the race. But Oliver Stone is going to go for a move in the middle sector to the inside of the Piff Paff chicane. Is in front of alongside. Munro can carry the momentum on the outside, which becomes the inside for the left-hander. But with how much pressure Stone is putting on, you have to imagine he will get a move done when Slipstream becomes even more powerful with the run up to the bus stop chicane. He could barely be any closer to the rear crash structure, and immediately pulls out of the slipstream as they start the run towards Blanchimont. It'll be the outside for Stone as they try and complete the move. Side by side. Throw it into the left-hander, and have the grip to give each other enough space and probably keep flat out. Now the inside as they enter the bus stop. Munro a little earlier on the brakes, holds back as a little bit deep for Oliver Stone. Might compromise their exit, and can see how close Munro is on the exit. Nigel Stock now holding it round the outside of Blanchimont as they again try and complete the move on Ure into the braking zone, as in front Pfeiffer's and Dan Tomlinson are fighting once again. Pfeiffer's hasn't got that move done and Tomlinson holds up to fourth, but Ben Holmes has a good run here out of the bus stop. Can't get to the inside of Stock. No, Stock will hold the inside, and Ben Holmes, opting nowhere to go, will settle back into line, but Shore is going to try and go round the outside front lockup as he heads into the source, strikes him out wide, and means that these two are still side by side as they come down the hill to a ridge. But Stock doesn't have the momentum, will fall back into line and pick up the slipstream as they come towards Camel Straight. Munro with the slipstream pulls back into the lead of this race as they get to the come in front of Oliver Stone. But we switch back to this three-way battle for P6. Can Ben Holmes finally find a gap to get himself up one, if not both places? And from Pfeiffer's has got to move and will get himself back up into P4 ahead. Dan Tomlinson. Stock on the inside of Ure will try and squeeze him out, but has to leave room. And wobble on the curb, nearly gets into the side of Stock, but just avoids a collision. Nigel Stock takes P6 once again. Shorey in P7. Ben Holmes still not able to make a move up there, as Butolfson has made a move on Matt High, here going side by side through this chicane. All the fighting you could imagine as we get towards the end of our first race this evening.
Quick replay of Adrian Rich, sadly having an issue on his own. He goes down through the middle sector. It's just before No Name. Oh, is that too much right foot? Sadly has a spin, stays down in 19th, and will be looking to lick his wounds potentially for race 2 this evening.
This will be the penultimate lap, that important final lap, as Butolfson runs really wide through Pond. Will give the place up to Matt High and pick up an off track for their adventures. Aidan Carter, by the way, is in P9 and is actually closing up on this battle for P6, as Oliver Stone is in second place. Is this a place they want to be as they come out of the bus stop chicane for the penultimate time with just over a minute left on the clock? Our leaders will start the final lap. It is now or never to make your move to win this race. By the way, the difference between the fastest laps between Munro and Oliver Stone, 4 thousandths of a second. Ortegren saying a personal best as they have one last push to get themselves into this fight for the lead. But with the slipstream up through a rouge and over the radial curve. You can see the effect of the slipstream. Overstone with the momentum pulls to the left-hand side. They'll get themselves in front, but can they pull clear before the braking zone? How hard will Munro fight this back, knowing it is the final lap of the race into the braking zone? Side by side, Munro will have the first apex, Stone with the second apex, carries the momentum and will get in front, taking the lead on the crucial final lap. We look back to Shorey, who's trying to come back on Nigel Stock for, I don't know, by the 5th time this race, these two fighting away. They'll go side by side into the calm, and Shorey will just get in front and come the nose, and Ben Holmes tags the back of Nigel Stock. The wheels come together and Ben Holmes is thrown over the top of Stock's car. A horrible way. Can see just clip the rear wheel with his front wing and then find the rear tire, which sort of jumped the car up into the air. Both these drivers are going to have significant damage, and it's going to be places that drivers behind, like Matt Time, but Tolfson and Aidan Carter, get to pick up. We cut back to our leaders as they approach the final sector. As we see Adrian Rich into the gravel, who has had a real struggle from the first lap of this race right to the last. But in the slipstream now is Munro. They've dropped back 3.5 tenths through the middle part of this lap, but they will still have the slipstream. They're closing. You can see that gap come down, not just on the timing screen, but physically in front of you. Through the exit of Blanchemont, Overstone will defend the inside. Munro will try Brave round the outside in braking zone. They don't have enough confidence in the brake. It's a little deep for Overstone. Munro is going to try the outside of the second part of the chicane. They carry the momentum, and Munro with a move on the final corner takes the win, 0.5 tenth ahead of Overstone. Ortegren with the fastest lap of the race. We close up, but just a little too late. Pfeiffer's got the move done on Dan Tomlinson, and as much as he tried to fight back, Pfeiffer's will hold on to P4. Dan Tomlinson will have to settle for P5. You're sure. Amazing fighting. He wasn't as quick as Nigel Stock, but he used the slipstream and held on to P6. Aidan Carter will take P7 ahead of Nigel Stock, who had an unfortunate coming together with Ben Holmes on the final lap. Matt High and Butofsson will take the final places in the top 10, as Ben Holmes will have to sell for P11 after that crash. Staples and Sean McGardle fighting through the couple of corners in a similar manner, but loss of the rear end in contact as they come up towards the line. Staples losing the rear end as they try to put the power down over the bus stop into the side of Sean McGardle. Luckily, both cars will get across the line. Sean McGardle takes 12th. Staples will have to sell for 13th. Jack Page will get 14th, and Ash Hill will take the reverse grade pole position of P15 for a second 25-minute race coming up for Toy. After an instant earlier in the race, we'll have to sell for 16th ahead of Ashford as they follow towards the line. Williams, Adrian Rich and Lewis Mason have difficult races finishing off of the lead lap.
Oh my. 0.5 tenth between the leaders. We'll just wait for Ash Hill, Berton for Terry and Richard Ashford to come to the line. For Terry and Ashford are still fighting for position. It's about half a second between them, but I think for Terry will hold off 16th from Ashford 17th. Oh my word, that lead battle. Oh, and Ashford's had to spin right at the end. Oh, Ashford, Richard, what you doing? Gets to the line regardless, keeps the car out the wall. Oh my. Results for... that's qualifying. Let's not do the qualifying results. We will empty that and we will go to results from that race we've just had. It is Luca Monroe from Oliver Stone, the Autogren Pipers, Tomlinson Scorer, Carter Stock, High and Bottleson, your top 10 for the first race this evening. 11th is Holmes, McArdle 12th, Staples 13th, Page 14th, Ash Hill taking the pole position. Race start for the top 15 reverse grid here. We have coming up for race 2. 16th is for Terry, Ashford 17th, Williams in 18th, and we go down to 19th and 20th. Sadly, Rich and Mason, both cars having issues. not seeing the end of the race, and finishing down 5 and 10 laps down from the leaders, respectively.
Well done to Pfeiffer's from the back of the grid, getting up to P4, 14 places gained. But also well done to Dan Tomlinson, who they were fighting with, who made up 6 places from where they qualified. And Munro, of course, taking the lead, had only qualified 4th. So good race from them. As we have this little downtime, they'll look towards chat as we barely had a moment to breathe towards the end of that race. The racing was so good. Evening to John Coddy and to Tim Bob. And thank you for the follow, France with many itches. Hope you really enjoyed that race, because boy, was that one hell of a race.
It was. Thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Welcome to the community. We are just finishing a season of 8 weeks worth of racing. Next season 4 is to be announced. Keep an eye on our own Discord. Come and join, come and pester the admins, come and say hi, come and get involved. It'll be a pleasure to have you. And yeah, keep an eye out for season 4, folks. It is coming. A shortened season of 6 weeks. But no less action on the circuit. And if this is something to go by, oh my, you should just wait until next season. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
We do actually have season 4 announced, so
do
we do.
Oh, well.
We do indeed. So while we have this little bit of downtime, let us share with you what we have. First of all, coming up next week, we have a whole load of social races from the Mon Ultimate. We have a GT3 versus GTE race on Monday, if you want to get involved with that, and not this Sunday, as we have the final of the 100 series coming up this Sunday, but next Sunday we have LMP2s versus hypercars. So those are the Mon Ultimate social races. On Tuesday we have Estonia 25s at Tor Poznan, or Poznan. I'm absolutely butchering that pronunciation, but we have 4 15-minute sprint races, 2 of which will be reverse grid races on the original cell courses. So if you have a cell Corsa, I mean, it's very cheap at the moment in the Steam Summer Sale. It is well worth the money. And so if you want to get into sim racing at very little expense, that is a really good option. Has some great variety with all the mods for it. So yeah, that'll be on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, our iRacing social will be MX-5s, one of the base game cars, at Le Circuit de la Sarthe. Le Mans, long straights down the Mulsanne, broken up by 2 chicanes to make sure you don't fall asleep. But plenty of slipstreaming opportunities. We see how good slipstreaming makes for a good race here at Spa. I'm sure the racing will be just as interesting then. And for season 4, we have many alternatives for the Mon Ultimate for AC throughout the week. But our Thursday iRacing choice, we have GT3 cars. We'll be having in sort of continental battle, EU versus NA. 3 rounds in North America track, 3 rounds in Europe, as 3 European manufacturers battle against 3 American manufacturers to see which side of the Atlantic Ocean will come out on top. Join us then, 6-week seasons from season 4 onwards, so not as long, not as much of a commitment, but hopefully just as fun for the racing.
Must admit, I'm looking forward to the battle between Europe and America. That's going to be a good one. America. Like that. America. 4 minutes down, or 5 minutes down of this warm-up, and we should just be finishing the warm-up session, and we'll be able to go to show you the grid for the second race. A bit of a shorter race for race 2, but with that top 15 reverse grid, we will see a bit of a change in order. Let's just await the grid to come up, and indeed it will. That isn't correct. Let's all the way to the top, and we'll see it is Ash Hill on pole position, followed by Page, Staples, McArdle, Holmes, Bottleson, High, Stock, Carter, and Scorer. Thomason will be 11th, Mike Pfeiffer's in 12th, and then we'll see Autogren, Stone, Autogren, Stone, and Monroe, the 3 cars fighting for the lead at the end of the last race. It's for Terry, Ashford, Williams, Rich, and Mason as they finished in the previous race. And they are all just gridding as we speak.
Not long now till we get underway for a second race. Only 25 minutes, but with the reverse grid, some drivers have a lot of places to make up. The lights are coming on now. The engine revs will rise for the final time. We are away here at Spas. It's a good getaway from Ben Holmes as Ashhill makes a decent start off the lead from second. Jack Page trying to find a way, or is that sure, right? I'm getting liveries confused a little bit as everyone tussles their way, tries to find best space through the source and then sort themselves into line, find some slipstream as the drivers make their way down to Rouge and Radeon. They'll be side by side in the mid pack, maybe even 3 wide. How many cars will have to get the crest? There's one massively over the inside runoff as they now come down the Camel Straight, 3 nearly 4 wide in the background.
No notes of contact, no cars have crashed from what I can see. Lewis Mason has decided to go back to the pits on this occasion, sadly, so we're not entirely sure why that is. But positions are changing, and there's someone going off track. It's Philip Staples having an incident, dropping down the order, and that's a car off in the gravel indeed.
That's Staples recovering after contact with Jack Page side by side as they went through. They come, unfortunate for Staples. We'll see this just too deep for Jack Page into the corner. Was on that really tight line. Maybe Staples could have left a little bit more room there, but just an awkward coming together on this opening lap as everyone tussles for position. And the grid still trying to sort themselves out. It's not been a good start for Sean McGardle either. He's down 9 places off the start as we head in. Oliver Stone being ushered nearly off the track as they come into the Piff Path chicane from Dan Tomlinson, who's fighting with Aidan Carter heading towards the final sector. Aidan Carter just defending the inside a little bit, trying to hold on, but will need to push forward. Getting the slipstream of Shore in front. They don't want to be left behind, and they want to use every opportunity they can to try and get themselves further up the grid, currently sitting in P7.
Yep, absolutely. Carter going to take that and run away with it a little bit because he's got a gap up ahead about 1.1 seconds. He's out the slipstream from Jory in 6th position. He's going to be a little bit vulnerable to Tomlinson here. Go down to the final chicane. End is already defending. Oliver Stone also trying to follow through. Staying behind the rear wing of Dan Tomlinson. Goes to the outside, which will become the inside for the final part of the final chicane. And then that is move not quite done. Dan Tomlinson hangs around the outside and will be the inside for turn 1. This is hurting Oliver Stone here, who really wants to get past these guys with that reverse grid. And this will be hurting his chances of getting back up into at least the top 5.
There are a lot of drivers here that will be wanting to make up places, not just Oliver Stone, but Monroe and Ortegren right behind them. Pfeiffer's as well, who will be quite familiar with what's going on this race, as Sean McGardle and Nigel Stock have come through the pit lane to repair damages side by side up through a region radion between Stone and Dan Tomlinson. And Monroe is going to try and follow through, is going to make it 3 wide as they head up to, they come in the middle. Ortegren is trying to find a bit of space, but there isn't any space, and he's just weaving across the track as if he's trying to warm up his tires. 3 wide into they come. Dan Tomlinson shoveled up on the outside. Oliver Stone with the inside does come out in front, and Monroe will be up 1 place, and it will have to defend as Dan Tomlinson tries to come back into the downhill right-hander. Tire smoke in front of Spatolson finds their way past Jarrett Page, or maybe not. They're fighting side by side, and Patolson has a bit of an off track, is sliding through the gravel and is going to lose a few positions. Aidan Carter, Jory Shore making up places, and Ben Holmes trying to as well. Will look to the inside into Pone as we see a car very wide there. That was Jarrett Page, who's been passed by Matt Ty, who's trying to chase after Ashhill for the lead of the race. Ash trying to get the win as Aidan Carter, involved in a crash, collects Ben Holmes in the gravel trap. These two will drop to the back of the order.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's not going to go down well. Whatever happened to Aidan there? We'll see let's get a replay of it first of all. He's really spinning. He just go wide onto the extra tarmac, and then I'm going to rewind that because the replay isn't giving us the full extent of the what caused that there. Did you just run wide? That was contact.
The contact.
A nudge.
Contact.
Oh, and it unsettled the car.
Yeah, I think he had just get a slight bit of overlap with Shrory, and Shrory didn't realise it, pulled over to the right, looking to make a move or to defend. It's unclear with how close everyone is fighting, as we see here cutting to the bus stop. And yeah, very unfortunate for Carter, very unfortunate too for Ben Holmes. Both really innocent parties in that crash. And Dan Tomlinson spun in the background at the chicane. Will drop down places as well, as we see 2 by 2 into the source. These drivers will be trying to see who can they get the slipstream off, who can they get a run. Oliver Stone in the middle of this train. Bertolfsson leads way ahead. Drapage, Stone in the middle ahead of Yuri Shore and Monroe. Ordergren not too far behind as well. Yuri on a very poor line there. Will have to scrub off a bit of speed to make sure they don't breach track limits. The cars will now fan out into 2 files. Still trying to pick up any slipstream they can, trying to figure out which way they want to go. Everyone trying to work around each other, and the 36 car, couple of wheels on the grass, trying to get to the outside. That's not going to work, and Jarpage has ended up in the runoff.
Yep, and that is, I think, nothing with him he's done. There was a car on his outside, was trying to make it almost 3 wide going into the braking zone. 2 wheels on the grass that just tapped him around a little bit. Unsettled the car, and he's now become the biggest loser out of that battle.
Stone trying to get themselves to the front of the train. They have done so round the outside of Bertolfsson through the left-hander. Monroe has been able to follow them through. Will not let Stone get away here, which after taking the race, our first race victory, did Monroe, Oliver Stone will be wanting to break away. They don't want a repeat. As we see here, the 36 right short just going onto the grass. The space wasn't there, and you know, is a bit optimistic, though it's hard to see from that angle. You know, if you know, yeah, it's not simple in these situations when you've got so many cars around you. I mean, there's 5 cars in this battle. You know, for each one of these drivers are trying to track and follow 4 cars in their immediate vicinity. It is so difficult to do, especially on iRacing, where you don't get that sort of overhead radar that drivers may be familiar with from ACC and Le Mans Ultimate. Makes it quite difficult, as we see Matt Hyde now past Ash Hill to take the lead of the race 3 laps in.
Yep, 3 laps in, and it's going to be a long fight for Matt Hyde and Ash Hill. The battle in the background is still going on. Hyde, new fastest lap of the session in the background. There's a gaggle of cars fighting away. That is Mike Pfeiffer's leading the way from that is Carl, look up the inside. Let's not do that. Adrian Rich and Philip Staples now also looking to try and capitalise as well.
Yeah, Rich would have been compromised with that tight line, wouldn't have been able to carry the momentum, and that's allowed Staples to get through. And hopefully for Staples, they'll be able to get enough slipstream off of Pfeiffer's to stay in front of Adrian Rich as Ash Hill comes back at Matt High with the slipstream towards Lake Home. Will Matt High fight this back in the braking zone? They will back out of it in the end, and Ash Hill will take the lead. Monroe trying to fight back on Stone, not able to get the move done, and Ordergren now past the start train of Bertolfsson Troy will follow our top 2 from the previous race, having been just a little too far back in the first race. Ordergren is going to get involved, and actually if Ordergren has a little go on Monroe, slows Monroe up, these 2 can maybe slow each other down and allow Oliver Stone to start to break away and run away to try and catch the 2 leaders of High and Hill.
Yep, absolutely. So it looks like Ollie Stone's now got that separation from Luca Monroe here. It's 0.8 of a second. It's just about enough not to worry about a slipstream. I think I'll be a bit more comfortable if that gap does open up to maybe 1.1, 1.2 seconds, just to be sure. But with Auto now fighting away with Monroe, that's given them the breathing space they need just to potentially say, you know what, I'm going to leave you guys, I'm going to try and go for the race win. I've got quarter of an hour to do it. Let you guys squabble, whatever you want to do, that's fine by me.
in the slipstream for Ordergren. They're closing. Will they try and make it side by side through Blanchimont? It's a bit risky, but these cars do have the grip to make it work. Is being patient, is waiting. Now, do they have enough momentum still to make a move into the bus stop? No, doesn't seem like it. In fact, we're going to be side by side in the background, though. Shorey trying to fend off Batolfson, or trying to pass Batolfson, sorry, and will lose the rear end, trying to get a little adventurous with their racing line off the grippy part of the circuit, and finding the lack of grip on the outside there, losing traction, and will allow Pfeiffer's to close back up, losing the slipstream from Batolfson too, will be vulnerable up the Camel Straight, as we are so used to this race.
Absolutely. Now, Ollie Stone with that clear air, not having to worry about a car trying to get back past him in fourth. Third position, the fastest lap, 2:22.9, compared to the last lap of Ashton and Matt High, who are also equally fighting away for position, 2:24 respectively for the P1 and P2 as it stands. Ollie Stone making inroads, but Luke Morris closed the gap back up again as the leaders go fighting around the outside. Goes Ash Hill. Matt High can't do anything about that. Ash Hill closes the gap and says, you know what, if you want to come past, got to try again maybe a bit later on, or when I say later on, maybe round about now, inside line with Matt High in that HSBC branded other banks are available car, as we go into, now go downhill through the second sector. It's all downhill from here on out, and it looks like Matt will take the lead again once more of the top three of the previous race, now catching the current race leaders.
These two have definitely closed themselves or slowed themselves down a bit, as they're now losing, as Oliver Stone is closing up on these two. And soon enough, these two, it won't just be a two-way fight for the lead, it will be a three, if not five-way fight for the lead. The question is, when Oliver Stone, Munro and Ordergren close up and start trying to pass, can Matt High and Ash Hill keep themselves in this fight for the lead, keep themselves in the opportunity of winning this race, or will they sort of just fall back and end up fighting over P4? We'll have to wait and see, but we might not be waiting too long.
Realistically, these two don't have... Oh, sorry, carry on.
Towards the bus stop now for these two. Matt High defends the inside from Ash Hill. Munro defending the inside from Ordergren in the background. We've had some swaps of position. I think for Toy and Ashford had a little collision last lap. Adrian Rich having issues, falling behind Pfeiffer's and Shorey, who those two are fighting amongst each other. Shorey getting the better of Pfeiffer's 4-9. Staples getting in front of Adrian Rich. You can see nearly three wide. Pfeiffer's having a little bit of a weave. Watch it, that is a little bit naughty coming towards braking zone, but Adrian Rich just running in very deep and very wide will kind of fall out of this battle, but will be in P10, 3.5 seconds in front of Chart Page, which they'll be trying to hold on to that position. And Ashford gets themselves back in front of for Toy after those two, I think, had a little altercation on the previous lap. Ash Hill going for the lead now. On the outside, will Matt High, they do fight back into the braking zone, they squeeze Ash Hill to the apex. They have to back out, and Overstone's going to look to the inside. It's going to try and take PD here. First time of asking. Ash Hill's going to try and hang it around the outside, but it is a long way around here. Earlier on the brakes, Ash Hill is going to slot back into line. Overstone immediately into second place as they catch the front two.
Funky camera angle. I forgot there was this camera angle on iRacing. It's brilliant. They've got a little bit of overhead battle here. She saw Ollie Stone get the move done, and now his next target is Matt High for the race lead. The leaders are now picking their way through this in the top two here, who on the reverse grids started P1 and P2, didn't they, Matt High and Ash Hill? So now falling back down to more of their natural order as they fight for, well, they do fight for position. They are very much allowed to. It's for position nonetheless. Regardless of it being a reverse grid, if they are actually just naturally slower than the cars around them, they can fight all they want, but I have a feeling that the confidence of the other three drivers that actually did finish on the top three last race will come in their favour as we see going down onto the final sector. And there's a run for Ollie Stone. He's going to look to the inside. He's going to probably be side by side by Blanchimont. Actually, the move might already be done even before we get to Blanchimont. Matt High indeed does fall back, and it is a race lead for Ollie Stones. You go up into the 5 chicane. Matt High not letting him have it all his way. Makes the change around the outside. Will he cut back for the inside and then try and cut back again for the second inside line? He does. He has a little better run actually. Actually might still be challenging for lead as the lead is now a 5-way battle.
Has Oliver Stone taken the lead a little bit too early? Has to defend the inside from Matt High, and you can see Ash Hill pulling to the outside, thinking, hang on, there's maybe an opportunity coming out here, out of the source, picking up a bit of gravel that's been brought onto the track, and look at this 5-car train,
like
nearly all of them within a little over a second separates these. Now they're all within a second as Matt High with the slipstream run pulls alongside Oliver Stone and retakes the lead. Ash Hill is going to try and use the slipstream from Matt High to follow through. Matt High's run has kind of stalled out, doesn't have any more slipstream, but Monroe goes to the inside of Ash Hill and will pick up P3 here. So Ash Hill looking to go forwards, has ended up losing one place, might lose another. Ortegren gets alongside and pulls off this basically same move that Oliver Stone pulled on not Matt High, but Ash Hill a lap ago. And Ash Hill now finds himself at the back of the screen. Last thing he wants to do is fall off the back of it, as Matt High, who he was previously fighting for the lead before our top 3 from our first race this evening, caught up and sort of mingled themselves within this fight. You know, they now, those 3 cars now separate Ash Hill to Matt High, and you know, even if Matt High isn't able to take a top 3, just being able to hold on for longer than Ash Hill has might be securing himself a P4 here, maybe a podium position.
Who knows? Thank you very much for a follow. Someone did pop up there, and I just completely missed your name because I've been highly focused on this action. Thank you for following Alan B. Goose. Welcome to the oNiD community, and you've joined us at the final race of our season 3. Please do jump into Discord, come and say hi to the admins. Don't get involved with season 4 is launched and 6 weeks worth of racing for our next season on here's especially on iRacing as well on a Thursday night. If you want to come and get involved and come and say hi, come and pester us. This is fantastic. I'm like a kid at Christmas. I'm being spoiled here. It has now become a 4-way battle. Hill has just dropped off this pack of cars just for the moment. I'm sure they'll be able to catch back up shortly as these guys continue to fight. Ollie Stone does retake the race lead from Matt High. High's going to try and stick in the slipstream and maybe think about making a move up into turn 1. Thinks better of it, gets on the brake, stays behind, and uses that slipstream to pull himself along. There's about half a second gap between him and third for Luca Monroe. It's not that far behind, but the slipstream from the leader will be helping him here.
Yeah, so you can see Ash Hill already a second and a half back from this battle. Will be getting no slipstream as contact, I think, between the two of them. Yes, you can see damage to the left-hand side of Matt High's wing, right-hand side as we look at it now, but he's still going to try and pick up more slipstream and get himself back into the lead, but that aero damage could be slowing him down on the straights and has allowed Monroe to get to the inside, and Monroe will take P2. Ortegren will follow through. Matt High in just one moment is going to fall out of this lead for the race. If the damage is too severe, Ash Hill will catch up, but Matt High will be falling further down the order. It's the last thing he needed from what was basically a guaranteed P4 if he kept it clean, a potential for a top 3, but now he might be finding himself falling to P5. As you can see, already second between him and the train in front as they go on and will fight for the lead amongst themselves in the remaining 7 minutes of the race.
No obvious damage from Matt High. You can see he's just maybe steering a little bit more than he was done before. Maybe that front wing damage is affecting the downforce of the car. It looks okay. He's actually able to catch back up again. So whatever's happened, the guy's fighting up ahead is actually helping him stay put. But the gap behind Ash Hill isn't closing, and I dare say the gap for Matt High is closing up back up to the top 3. It's not getting any longer, but it is slowly closing. But no, because that is purely because the top 3 who were the top 3 for the final race, sorry, I'll say that again, who were the top 3 finishers for the first race are now the top 3 runners for this final race.
Ortegren thinking about maybe making a move on Monroe, forcing him to go defensive, but isn't close enough for a move this time by we will have 3 laps more in this race. So not a lot of time to go, but still, in a way, also a lot of time to go if you're these 3 drivers. Don't need to get too hasty as we see a replay of Fortoy into the bus stop. Dan Tomlinson in front, you remember, had a spin at this very corner earlier on. And Fortoy maybe replicating that spin and getting in the way of, I believe...
Ben Holmes.
Yes, Ben Holmes, getting in the way of Ben Holmes. Bit of teamwork. I'm not sure this is how teamwork's meant to work between the oNiD cars, but yes, that allowed Ashford to make up a couple of places, but Ashford has found himself off the track and it has given those places back quite promptly as we see a replay of them into first corner. Little tiny inside little bump there, and that just unsells the car, causes it to go for a spin.
Yep, indeed, he'll keep going, but that's going to hurt his chances of a decent position for this final race. And it's 4.5 minutes to go for not just for this round, well, it is for this round, but for season 3 of iRacing. It's been a fun few weeks, isn't it?
It has been. It has been a great season, a lot of great racing, not Yalton Park. But yeah, fantastic. And the 1 week you weren't here, Aidan, when we were racing at Snarton, as Ortegren runs wide onto the gravel. We'll get away with that. Does drop a little bit back. Won't be wanting to do it again, but does immediately through the first part of Stavlo. And this could be Ortegren throwing away any chance they have of the lead. The gap opens up to over a second between them and the front two in front. And now it becomes a 2-way fight for the lead, much like what we've seen in the first race. Will Munro make it 2 for 2, or will Overstone take this, ruin Munro's not perfect weekend, but ruin their double victory? Into the bus stop, 2 laps remain. Munro in second place with the slipstream towards the source. They set a personal best lap of the race. They think about a move. But maybe just trying to put the pressure, trying to unsettle Oliver Stone, showing that, yeah, they're thinking about a move. They want to win this race.
But it's Staples having a bit of a spin, potentially going through the final chicane. Sees the first one, goes through the second one. Is that too much right foot? It is, ever so slightly, and not the first time we've seen someone do that. I'm sure it would be not last to watch the rejoin. Gears the car 113, a bit of a scare. That was Mike Pfeiffer's. Potentially having to go a little bit wider than he wanted to. We'll go back to lead battle. That is Monroe still in the lead from Oliver Stone, defending after the Kemmel Straight. Holds position as 1.5 laps to go for him to hold that race lead if he can.
But as we've seen with the first race that was decided on the final corner, what happens now doesn't really matter as long as you don't make a mistake, like what Ortegren just did, getting into the gravel for the 3rd time in 2 laps. But Oliver Stone maybe getting a little impatient, thinking about a move into put on. That is not a place you want to make a move. Matt High, after the little bit of contact he have into back of Oliver Stone, doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. He's not lost too much time, and with Ortegren's mistakes has been brought back into a fight for P3. We're coming to the end of the penultimate lap. We're setting up this final lap race again. Which way will it go? A little, just a smidge wide for Munro as they kick up a bit of dust from the gravel, and Oliver Stone right behind them. Does Stone take the lead now, or do they wait to take it on the final lap?
I can't answer that question, but I can tell you we'll find an answer very shortly out on track, as Ollie Stone thinks about making a move on the final chicane. Monroe has a bit of a half-assed defence when rejoins the racing line upon the realisation of Stone not doing anything. Aidan Carter has sadly had a spin, and he will rejoin circuit and continue, but it is all to play for the top 4. Matt High, Ortegren fighting There's Monroe and Stone onto the final lap, and for the final lap of season 3, let's strap in.
Let's strap in because we're starting side by side with Matt High and Ortegren. Matt High up into the podium place. Ortegren, a few too many mistakes at the end of the race, won't have the chance to fight for the lead, not unless things get spicy between Monroe and Oliver Stone. With the slipstream, Ortegren looking for a way to get back past Matt High as Oliver Stone closing with the slipstream. Monroe covers the inside line as much as they can, but that doesn't stop Stone from getting their nose in front at the braking zone, but they'll fight it side by side through. They coming on there. It's a big slide for Monroe, but they catch the slide. It'll drop them back though, and has allowed Oliver Stone to pull a gap, and maybe that will be the win for this race. Matt High has closed in to the back of Monroe, and it could be a 3-way fight for second place.
That pass for the lead was absolutely essential for Oliver Stone. Don't run wide, Oliver. What are you doing? Is able to keep it on the track.
You'd think Ortegren had learned from their mistakes to not run wide, but they do again through the left-hander. Luckily, they're just about close enough to Matt High, but Matt High now with slipstream from Monroe might be able to defend that third place, might be able to get second place in the final corners. But Monroe, he was the driver to make the move in the final corners last race. He might know how to defend from them, and in his fact breaking away from Matt High. Matt High just needs to stay in the slipstream to help them defend from Ortegren, but they haven't. Ortegren has closed up, and it's going to be Ortegren that is trying to make the final corner move to get themselves onto the podium. Will they miss out on the podium in the second race? They'll have to go round the outside of Matt High through Blanchemont. They get through, shuffled wide over the curb though is Ortegren. They keep their nose in it, and they'll have the inside to the bus stop. Oliver Stone with an easy lead will take the win of this race, but we're looking in the background as Oliver Stone waves. It's Matt High who will come home for P3. They'll fend off Ortegren as Monroe will have to settle for P2. Fighting further back, Adrian Rich trying to fight past Rory Shore for P7. A little bit of an internet blip there, but Shore will take 7th. Rich P8, and Mike Pye for his personal best lap. Caught up to that battle, but just a little too late. We'll have Self for P9. Staples takes P10 as we see the fight for 12th place. Page trying to hold on from Page and for Toy here fighting from Sean McArdle and for Toy. Sean going wide over the runoff to make the move there on for Toy. That is a little bit naughty, but was the space left? I didn't quite see. But frantic racing right up to the line as it has been all season. What a way to end this season.
It's been incredible. And if this season was anything to go by, if you could sum it up in one race, that was it. That was just it. And Luca and Oliver Stone, we did see him just briefly there. We'll give it a bit of rewind because, you know, why not? Let's just see some donuts from our race winner this evening for race 2.
Our race winner and our championship winner, Oliver Stone, taking a second and a first place. They will undoubtedly have won not just the Pro Championship, but the overall championship as well. Well done to Oliver Stone, our champion of Season 3 here on iRacing in oNiD.
Indeed, we're going to get right. We'll get the right results up there for the feature race. There we go. Oliver Stone taking the win from Luca Monroe. Matt High 3rd, Ortegren 4th, Hill in 5th, Bottleson 6th, Scorer 7th, Rich in 8th, Pyeth is in 9th, and Staples your top 10 for the final time this evening. And for this season, Tomlinson 11th, Page in 12th, Ricardo 13th, Williams 14th, Carter 15th, Holmes 16th, Ashford 17th, Fatoe in 18th, and we see Stock in 19th. And sadly, Lewis Mason had some technical issues. I do believe he returned to the pits, wasn't able to rejoin, but classifies as 20th for the final time this season. Oh. And that's that, folks. that is oNiD4 Championship done and dusted. And it has been an incredible 8 weeks worth of racing that culminated a variety of British circuits and then finished up here at Circuit du Spa-Francorchamps. And what an evening we've had. Fantastic battles, amazing racing, side-by-side action where you wouldn't expect there to be side-by-side action going through parts of this circuit. Somehow our drivers made it all work. And yeah, I'm astounded by not just the racecraft by some of these drivers that they've managed to do, but it's the whole season. It's been fantastic.
It has been absolutely fantastic. That move from Monroe to win the first race, that has to. I think that's moment of the season. It was absolutely fantastic. And you think, oh, if you've defended the place, held on with the lead into the bus stop, you think, oh yeah, you've got this. But for Monroe to force Ulverstone to defend, force them to go deep into the corner, and then just round the outside, force them in tight. That was such a brilliant move. Moment of the season, maybe overtake of the season as well. It was absolutely fantastic. But Ulverstone, they've been very quick throughout this season. That second race win is their 5th win of the season, and it was also their second place of the season for the first race. So you could say that's a bit of a coincidence, but a nice way to end off the season for our champion. But yeah, what a race. We knew the slipstream battles were going to be good, and well, they certainly delivered. I don't think there's a better way to have ended this season.
Neither do I. And Scotty, thank you for your company, your commentating, and your assistance here on these Thursday night streams. It's been a pleasure to share the comments booth with you, and hopefully we'll get you back in the comments booth next season of iRacing if I'm not mistaken.
If plans do not change, I will be here, and hopefully the GT3s give us racing that is just as good as what we've seen here tonight.
GT3s the next season. 6 weeks for racing across a variety of circuits. Do get yourself signed up. I do believe there's still some spaces left. Only a few. Get onto SimGrid. Get yourself signed in. Get yourself signed up. Come and see us on Discord as well. Discord.gg/oNiD Community Racing. We'll post all our updates in regards to seasons, and we'll be there to advise, help, and also encourage you to get involved in what we have upcoming to season 4. Socials next week, no streams. We get a bit of a break before we get back into next season's 6 weeks worth of racing for GT3s on a Thursday night. And until then, we'll say goodnight. Thank you so much for your viewership. It's been a pleasure to bring you this 8 weeks worth of racing here on oNiD Community Racing, and we will see you all in a couple of weeks. But as I always say, we'll see you again very, very soon.